Welcome to Ground Control. I have an item for review. This thing is tiny, tiny, tiny. This is the Byme-A flight controller and gyro from Radiolink, and this was provided courtesy of Radiolink for Ground Control RC, so I want to thank them much for sending this for review. Just to give you an idea of the size, there's a US quarter. I think that the pins are as large as the board. And let's go over the specs on this. It comes with, of course, you get the flight controller gyro. It comes with a servo cable. It doesn't come with the quarter, but it does come with a 3M adhesive pad. It takes up to 4 channels, and it will only work with SBUS or PPM receivers, so you can't use a standard receiver with it. And it covers the throttle, the aileron, the elevator, and the rudder. And it's made for a traditional plane, not for a wing or a park jet that uses elevon mixing. This is for a traditional plane or a 3D plane only. You could use this in anything like indoor, microplane to a scale plane. So it says on the label, it says 6 volt, but it's actually 5 to 6 volt according to the specifications. So standard voltage regulator on an ESC, as long as it's between 5 to 6 volts, you got it covered. Okay, so I'm real excited about reviewing this product. I haven't had much in the way of standalone gyro systems. So with all the features that they've crammed onto this tiny little board, I'm real excited about getting this in a plane and testing it out, and we'll go over everything that it does. But it has 5 flight modes. It has a vertical mode, a stabilized mode, a gyro mode, an acrobat mode, and thank you very much, a full manual mode. So there's a lot of modes there. There are different gyro modes for different flight modes, and so because you can also use this with a 3D plane, you're going to set it up on a 2-position switch or a 3-position switch, but you're only going to need 2 positions to change the flight controller attitude. So whether you're wanting to stabilize in horizontal or whether you're wanting to stabilize in vertical. Is that pretty cool or what? So there's different gyro modes depending on whether you're in a traditional plane and you want horizontal stabilization, or if you're flying a 3D plane and you also want to switch into vertical mode. So that's pretty impressive. Oh, and I checked the price point on this, and it has a very, very good price point for what this does. Okay, so in the specs it states that it's 4.5 grams. Now I weighed mine. Mine weighed 3.1 grams. 3.1 grams for that. Okay, so they also have, this is the Byme-A, but they also have what's a model called Byme-D, and I assume the D is for Delta because that one is specifically for wings or park jets that do elevon mixing. So they also have one of these flight controllers / gyros for Delta wings too, for elevon mixing. Hopefully I'll be able to test that one out as well, because I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4. I've got, let me see, 1, 2 wings. I have another wing on the way, and 3 park jets that do elevon mixing that I can test it in. So, all right. So let's see. It has 3-axis gyro and a 3-axis accelerometer sensor. So I guess we're talking about a 6G here. It says it's compact and portable, multiple models, applicable with various models, straight wing aircraft, 3D fixed wing, RC plane, RC jet, trainer, and scale model. So I want to go over, and I'll put a picture up on the screen right now so you can actually see it. and the pins on the gyro will be facing back. So you need to make sure that you get it facing the correct way. You can have it right side up or upside down, either one. It will detect its attitude when it initializes. Every time that it's powered on, it will recalibrate. And you can also use your sticks on your transmitter to force a calibration if you want to, by holding both sticks down and out in the outside bottom corners. And the green light will flash, and then you can go solid again, and then you'll know that you've completed your calibration. But okay, so I want to go over the different flight modes and gyro modes because there's so many of them. It says when the aircraft is powered on, the Byme-A will calibrate, and then you'll have a green LED light. So it also has a button in the front where you can change the phase of each channel. So if you need to reverse one of the channels, you can push this button on the very front center of the gyro to do that. Let me see. To change the phase, let's see. So if you short press it once, that will change the direction of the servo for the aileron. So you can reverse the aileron or put it back to normal with one quick click of the button. 2 short presses of the button and you will change the elevator direction on the servo, either normal or reverse. And 4 quick presses will change the rudder direction, either normal or reverse. So be aware of that. I prefer to change it in the transmitter if I need to change the direction of the servo, but if for some reason you're not able to do that, you can always do that on the flight controller gyro itself. Okay, so attitude calibration. It says that it needs to calibrate the attitudes level to ensure the balance. It says to lift the model, the front of the model, up about 20 degrees to ensure the calibration is accurate. And it'll be recorded once the attitude calibration is complete. And like I said, you can pull both joysticks down and out to force a calibration. Alright, so now I want to go over the gyro modes. Okay, so here's the flight mode. Stabilize mode. It's like the maximum angle is 70 degrees for your roll and 45 degrees for your pitch. It doesn't say anything about limiting the rudder, but it does limit your roll and your pitch axis. Gyro mode, which looks to me like that is a vertical mode. When you rotate it, it'll keep rotating until you counter rotate it. Acrobat mode, a horizontal mode. So acrobat mode. Acrobat mode is a combination of stabilized mode and gyro mode. When the joystick is the center point, the aircraft will self-level. There is no restriction on angles on roll or pitch. So it works like a 3-axis gyro in that mode. And so you can do acrobatics with it, but when you center the sticks, the plane will self-level. So that's a great mode to be in if you're wanting to learn aerobatics with a plane, or you know, if you get into trouble. You know, if you get into trouble, the plane will self-level while you're doing your aerobatics. And then it has manual mode, where there's no gyro mode at all. So it's full manual mode with no input from the gyro. I love that. I know that is a lot to take in, so I want to concentrate right now on what I want to test when we go out. Is I want to test out the modes in traditional mode, horizontal, stabilization mode. So let's go over those modes one more time and what they mean so there's less confusion. Okay, so in traditional horizontal flight mode, the first mode is stabilized mode. In stabilized mode, it restricts the angle of roll to 70 degrees, the pitch to 45 degrees. There doesn't appear to be any restriction on the rudder. Now that is a, you know, 70 degrees, that is a pretty good angle on roll, and 45 degrees is a pretty good angle on pitch. So you're not very restricted in 6G mode, stabilized mode, as you know, you're going to be able to make some tight turns. You're going to be able to climb at a pretty steep angle. You're going to be able to dive at a pretty steep angle, but if you center your sticks, the plane will auto level. So I think that's a pretty good beginner mode for someone. You know, they've got enough angle where they're going to be able to make a tight enough turn that they can fly the plane in a very small area. You know, if we're talking about a little micro plane. You know how some of those gyros are so restrictive, you need a football field to be able to make a turn with it. Well, you can't fly those in beginner mode in very small spaces. So I think that is a plus, you know, from my standpoint. And it does auto leveling. And then you have acrobat mode. So stabilized mode is like a 6G mode or a safe mode. And then you have acrobat mode. And I love this because most of the ready to fly planes that I've flown, when you go into intermediate mode, you can do a loop, but you can't do a roll, right? Why you can't do a roll, but you can do a loop, I have no idea. But I have yet to see one of those in intermediate mode will allow you to do a roll as well as a loop. So 3G mode, I love the way that they've set these modes up. 3G mode, there's no restriction on angle. You can do all the aerobatics that you would normally do, except when you center the stick, it will auto level. That is absolutely fantastic, I think, for an intermediate mode. And I love the fact that they've done that. You should be able to, you know, in acrobat mode, do all the aerobatics. You should be able to do that, you know, in an intermediate mode. It shouldn't restrict your ability to roll a plane, but then not restrict your ability to loop a plane or to do a stall turn with the rudder. If you get into trouble, all you have to do is center the stick and the plane will self-level. It's fantastic. I love the way they've done that. And the third mode in traditional, you know, level stabilization mode is full manual mode with no interference from the gyro. Now, that is the model that I love, and I wish all companies who were setting up their gyro modes on planes, I wish this is exactly the way that they would do it. You know, beginner mode or safe mode, whatever you want to call it, where it restricts the angles and self-levels. An intermediate mode or acrobat mode, where it's in 3G mode, where you're not restricted on any angles, performing any maneuvers, but if you center the sticks, it'll auto level. And then full manual mode. I love the way that they have done that, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited about being sent one of these to go out and test it out. I mean, that's fantastic. Okay, and then once we get this first test done in a traditional plane, then I'm going to try and set aside time to put this in my Yak 54. I've got some work I need to do on my Yak 54 3D plane. I need to put a bigger motor on it for more power, of course, and replace the landing gear on it. So once I get that ready to go back in the air again, I would like to test this vertical mode as well, because I think that would be an absolute blast. Okay, so I wanted to test this gyro on a little test rig here before I put it in a plane. Okay, and I'm using right now I'm using the WFly ET16 transmitter and RF module with this receiver. This is actually a WFly receiver that I'm using with this. So let's go ahead and power it on. Make sure my throttle safety switch is on. Okay, so I've got the aileron, the elevator, the rudder. Right now I have it in horizontal stabilization mode. So aileron, hopefully you guys can see the movement of the control arm on those servos. Elevator, rudder. Okay, and we'll check, I shouldn't have anything on throttle, my safety switch is engaged. Okay, so I will arm the motor. Okay, so we know that's working. Okay, so now I have it in 6G mode right now, in horizontal stabilized flight. So watch the elevator or the aileron servo when I tilt the gyro. You see it moving to correct. Okay, so now watch the elevator when I move it into pitch. You see it moving to correct in the pitch. And then the rudder, I'll move the yaw. And you see the rudder servo moving to correct the yaw. Okay, I'll put it in 3G mode. And watch the aileron servo. Okay, and it's not moving as much, is it? Because I don't have a real restrictive angle on it anymore. Okay, now watch the elevator and the pitch axis. Okay, so this is basically correcting, and when you center your sticks, it will auto level, but it's not restricting me on the angle. Okay, and then the rudder on the yaw, you can see it moving. Okay, now I'll put it in full manual mode. And now when I tilt the gyro, there's absolutely no input from the gyro. The aileron servo is stationary, the elevator servo is stationary, and the rudder servo is stationary. So we have full manual mode without any interference from the gyro. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back into safe mode. Okay, now watch what happens when I flip it into vertical mode. Now keep your eye on the elevator servo. Okay, you ready? Switching it into vertical mode. See that? So the elevator servo is going to kick the elevator up to automatically put the plane into vertical mode, and then it is going to hold it. It's going to stabilize it in vertical mode so that you can learn to hover the plane. Now I'll put it back in horizontal mode on the flight controller. You see it go back? Okay, watch. Vertical, horizontal. So that is pretty darn cool. I'm going to have a lot of fun testing this out. So anyway, I wanted to show you guys that it was set up, that it was working in all three flight modes, or gyro modes, all three gyro modes, and in both horizontal and vertical flight modes. I think that's just absolutely awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set this up in my eSheen Micro Sky Hunter to begin with, to test it out in horizontal stabilization mode, and then I will try to set time aside to put it in my Yak 3D plane so we can test out the vertical mode. I can't promise when I'm going to be able to get that done, but I'll try to get that done as soon as possible. I got some work to do on the Yak 54. Okay, so let me go ahead and unplug this. But I will also be setting this up in the with the RadioMaster TX16S as well. And when I get everything working properly, I will provide you guys with my OpenTX model file if you want to import it, so that you will already have a working configuration for this gyro. And the other thing is the gyro has definite channels defined on it. So channel 1 is aileron, channel 2 is elevator, channel 3 is throttle, and channel 4 is rudder. And then the pins at the top over here are for your SBUS PPM receiver connection. So, but it was extremely easy to set up. I mean, it was a piece of cake. I didn't have any problems with it. So I set up my flight modes on one switch on channel 7, and I set up my gyro modes on another switch on channel 5. And you can switch between those two flight modes and switch between all three gyro modes. So it works really, really great on my test rig. Now we need to test it in a plane. So just remember that. So you know, if you're using a different protocol that doesn't have a default channel order of aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, I would change my channel order in my transmitter to work so that it works exactly the same as the gyro does, because that is the order in which the gyro requires those channels to be in. So I always manually order my channels in the input and in the mixer page on the OpenTX transmitter. So I don't care for that auto mapping, so I always do that manually anyway. So anyway, stay tuned for the field test of this flight controller / gyro. I'm looking very forward to testing this in the air. So hopefully I'll be able to put that together as soon as weather permits. I will have the Eachine Micro Sky Hunter out there to throw in the air with this cool little Radiolink Byme-A flight controller / gyro. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.